Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of KBS Magazine podcast. I am Nakari Griffiths, founder of KBS Magazine, and today I am lucky enough to have Stephanie from Aunt and Amelia on Instagram. So if you don't know who Stephanie is, she's a mum of two who works with brands all over the board. She works in particular children's clothing brands, toy brands, and things like that. She creates beautiful images in collaboration with these brands. Please welcome Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So you can find me on Instagram at Aunt and Amelia.
So the most important question I think every mum out there wants to know is, how many coffees do you have a day?
That's a great question. I have about 3 a day. 3, to get me through. But I'm lucky because my babies are both great sleepers, so yeah.
So you say that your babies are both great sleepers. So when did they start sleeping through the night?
So Anthony was 12 months old. So it was a year of him waking up randomly once a night for about a year. Yeah, so. But on the other hand, Amelia, she was sleeping through the night at around 2 months old. So both very different, both breastfed. So, both very different. They're like polar opposites in terms of their development. They're both very different. Millie has always been she's been like my dream baby. Like she's so calm, she's so placid. She's made my transition from one baby to two babies very easy because she's just been really awesome. Yeah, I'm so blessed.
So, as all mums would know, the time when your baby's sleeping is such a good time to get stuff done or just relax, and you really have to value that time because you don't get a lot of it. So what do you do when you put down your kids for a nap?
So when my kids go to bed and the house is clean, I just relax in the lounge and I scroll Instagram and I catch up on my shows. That's my downtime, and I get to have my me time. I get to relax. I need that time to just regroup, and otherwise you go insane. You need some time for yourself. And then once every few months, my kids go to their grandma's for the weekend, which they love going. Yeah, so that's when I use that time to catch up with friends. Me and my husband go out for dinner or go for like a weekend away. And so that's what I do for downtime.
So why don't you take us back and tell us how the journey began?
The journey began when I had my first baby, Anthony. I've always been really passionate about kids' fashion. I started online shopping, as we all do, at 3 a.m. when we're breastfeeding. We've all been there. And anyway, I stumbled upon these beautiful small businesses on Instagram, and the clothes were like nothing I had seen in the mainstream shops, and the quality was just so much better. Like I found the mainstream shops boys section to be very, very basic, and it didn't really appeal to me at all. So then I turned my personal account into a kids account. I would take pictures of my son in different looks, and then as my account photography got better, we were offered rep positions. And then afterwards, my account really grew after I had Amelia. I had to relearn a different style of photography, and my account really turned into a lifestyle mama blog with kids fashion being the main focus.
It really is so hard to find boys' clothing in mainstream shops. I've often found myself even leaning towards more unisex clothing because there just isn't much of a range out there apart from on Instagram boutiques. So with that being said, what are some of your favourite places to shop for your little ones?
Yep, I hear you. I've done the same. I've gone for more unisex stuff in the past as well. Okay, so my favourite stores. Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question. Okay, so let's see. I love Bo Hudson. They have a lot of unisex clothing. Jelly Tot. They have like heaps of different brands. So like they're like your one-stop shop, and they sell, accessories and like lunch boxes, and they sell a lot of different things too. Adam and Eve, love that store. Ballerinas and Boys, they're unisex as well. Little Mister, for the girls, I love La Sienna, is one of my favourites. Jamie Kay, Ababella and Rose, Blush Kids, and they're just a few on the top of my head. There's so many beautiful stores out there.
So let's talk business, in particular collaborations. So how do you get into contact with brands, or do they get into contact with you? How do you set your rates?
It's really opened up a lot of doors for us. We've been fortunate enough to work with some amazing businesses. Typically, these businesses contact me via email or DM, but if it's a big business like Bonds, like a toy company, their PR team will contact me. So yeah, like what started off as a hobby is really turned into so much more. Okay, so usually collaborations, so a company will email me or send me a DM, and they'll provide what they're after, how many pictures they want, what kind of style they're looking for, and they generally contact me. And in terms of payment, it depends on the business, if they're big, if they're small. The bigger companies will normally have like a set price, and I'll either agree or disagree, and then we can negotiate. So that's how it works.
Working for yourself is the dream job for most people these days. So what tips would you give to mums hoping to start their own business and go down the same path that you have?
So my biggest tips for starting out would be, the most important thing is that make sure your kids enjoy it. They want to do it. They like being in front of the camera. That's the biggest thing for me, is making sure all the kids want to do it and they have fun. So, just find some unique spaces to take photos, get the camera out, have fun with it, find some of your favourite brands that you love, start interacting with them on your socials, start taking photos, uploading them, tagging them. And for us, it just grew from there. So, there would be my tips for starting out.
So being your own business, obviously you would have to source all your own equipment and editing programs and everything like that. So what editing software and equipment do you personally use?
Yeah, so as my photography got better and I got more interested in it, I learned the different settings on the camera, and I learned the different lighting techniques, and I ended up upgrading my lens, and I got a speed light, which helps with indoor photography. So it just creates a light source because my house is really dark. And then in terms of editing, I just use an app on my phone, to be honest with you, because the photos from my camera transfer straight to my phone via Bluetooth. So it just makes it a bit easier. And I'm in the process of upgrading my camera at the moment, which is super exciting.
So let's take a moment to talk about the fires and bring some awareness to what's currently going on in Australia at the moment. So it's obviously very scary living in Australia at the moment, and you and I both know this as we're both affected and living in the bushfire country. So what are your thoughts on the fires at the moment?
I know, the bushfires are so scary. It's just heartbreaking watching all the wildlife and all everyone's homes getting destroyed. It's just so hard for me to even like watch the news or like scroll in my feed, because all I see is like devastation. It's really sad. We're safe. We're living in Western Sydney, and we live in a suburban like area, so we're safe. My parents live in the Blue Mountains, and the fires came really close to them, but which was so scary. But it's something that we've dealt with before. But so thank God that they're safe, and hopefully they can get it under control soon, and we can get some rain.
It is so terrifying. I'm living on the Central Coast and the fires came very, very close to us and it was almost at a point of evacuation, so it was pretty scary. But on a happier note, how did you and your husband Anthony meet? I know this story from way back, but I'm sure the listeners would love to hear it.
Me and my husband met through a mutual friend. We exchanged Facebook accounts. We started messaging each other, and that turned into phone calls, which turned into him finally convincing me to go on a date with him. I was a bit apprehensive because he's actually 10 years older than me, so I was a bit apprehensive, but he winged me over in the end. So, so we dated for 2 years and then he proposed to me on the beach and we got engaged. A year later after that, we had our big log wedding, which was so beautiful. And so we were married for 3 years and we travelled and we worked, we travelled, and then we finally decided to start a family, which I was so excited about. So we tried for about 2 months and I got pregnant straight away. So I was very fortunate. So this year we're coming on 10 years being together, which is exciting. We just celebrated our 7-year anniversary. So that's our little story.
What a coincidence, me and my husband met on the beach, so it seems like a good place for love. So let's talk birth stories, because I know that all mums are going to be eager to hear about this. I love listening to other people's birth stories. I love telling my own birth stories. My birth was really quick, 4 hours from labour to birth. It was just very quick, first baby. It was a bit of a shock. My body was in shock for a few days after, I think. So tell me about your birth stories with Anthony and Amelia.
Okay, so Anthony's birth story. With Anthony came at 36 weeks. So he came a little bit earlier than expected. On the 24th of May, it was my husband's birthday. So I had, guests over for his birthday. I made dinner. I made a cake for him. Had everyone over. When everyone left, I cleaned the entire house from top to bottom. I just had like this nesting feeling, I guess. So everyone left. I went to bed around 12 o'clock, 3 a.m. I woke up. I was soaked. I was wet. The bed was soaked. My waters had broken. Being first-time parents, we kind of, he was scared, so we went straight to the hospital. The nurse checked me. She was like, "Yep, you're in labour." So around 5 a.m, the contractions started to really get really intense. So the contractions with Anthony came really hard and really fast, and they were really, really intense. I had back labour, so the pain was all in the back. So I had really bad back labour, and my husband was like rubbing my back with every contraction. He was amazing. He was such a good support. And then so I got into the bath, because the bath really helped me. It was so soothing and it was really relaxing. So I highly recommend being in the bath. It's really soothing. And then I jumped out of the bath. 4 hours later, I was 10 centimetres dilated, so I was ready to push. So I pushed for 2 hours. Anthony kept getting stuck. So he was coming down the birth canal and then he would get stuck right at the end. So the doctor had to intervene. He was getting distressed, so they ended up having to cut me. And then he was vacuumed out. So, but he was fine. Like he was a good size. He was 3.2 kilos. He was 52 centimeters long. So for a baby that's 1 month early, he was really a really good size. So he came out perfectly. He was healthy. There was nothing wrong with him. He was just a little jaundice, so he had to be in hospital, which is common for late prem babies. So so he was in hospital for about 5 days, and then we got to take him home. So yes, it was just beautiful. Okay, so Amelia's birth story. So on the 15th of November, at around 4:50, I started to get contractions, and they were becoming regular. So I proceeded to start timing them. So I timed them, and they were lasting about one minute at a time. But the pain, it wasn't painful. Like it was nothing what I had experienced with Anthony, and the pain was in the front this time, not at the back. It had some back pain, but the contractions were in the front. They started from 20 minutes to 10 to 7 minutes to 5. The contractions were getting closer and closer together. So I knew I was in labour. I just felt it. So that day my husband came home around 6. So we had dinner and everything. And at 6:30, sitting on the toilet, my water suddenly broke. And being strep B positive, I knew we had to quickly go to the hospital ASAP. And besides, Anthony's labour was only 6 hours, so I knew this labour would be even quicker. So by the time we got Anthony sorted, we arrived at the hospital birth unit at around 7. They took me straight into the examination room and started monitoring my baby's heartbeat. So around half an hour later, the midwives returned, and I told them that I had a couple of really, really strong contractions. And she was like, "Oh, you're fine. Like, you have a long way to go." They hadn't put the drip in me yet, mind you, because they thought that I had a long way to go. Boy, were they wrong. So just before 8 p.m, still in the examination room, I felt okay, I was fine. I wasn't feeling really sick. Like, I just had a couple of strong contractions. It was like nothing what I had experienced with Anthony. It was totally different. I suddenly had the urge to push. So we quickly went across the hall to the birth suite. So I jumped on I jumped on the bed. I kneeled down and leaned forward against the bed head. So and then so within 3 pushes, she was out. So by 8:08, she was in my arms. She came insanely fast, and I was in such a state of shock for a few days. I was like, what just happened? Like that was crazy fast. And even the midwives and the nurses were in disbelief by how fast she arrived. So she was in a rush, and she came at 39 weeks. So it was a good gestation, but she was the same size as Anthony, 3.2, and she was 51 centimeters long. So she was her birth story isn't much of a story because she came insanely quick.
So thank you so much to Stephanie for joining us on today's episode. You can follow Stephanie on Instagram at Aunt and Amelia. And if you would like to follow our show, you can head to KBS Magazine on Instagram, or you can head to kbsmagazine.com if you would like to support our show and also have access to lots of cool things such as templates for resumes, cover letters. If you're a business, we have templates for business plans, as well as you can catch up on all of our episodes on there. It's less than the price of a coffee per month, and we would really appreciate it. If you are a business hoping to support our podcast with ads, you can email us at thekbsmagazine@gmail.com. And if you would like to head over to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Nakari, spelt NAAKAREE.